This is something I haven't talked about in years, mostly because I've spent that time trying to forget it. But with summer rolling around again, the heat bringing back the same smells and feelings, I can't help but remember. I was 21 that summer, freshly out of college, stuck in the weird limbo between youth and adulthood. My friends had gone on trips, some moved for jobs, others just disappeared into new lives. I stayed back home. My hometown is small. Nothing much happens there, especially during summer. But that year, my neighbor, Mr. Hargrove, passed away. He'd been a recluse for as long as I could remember. Gray beard, dark windows, never left his house. When he died, there was talk that the house would be torn down. But for some reason, no one showed up to claim it. It just sat there. And then I met Ellis. It was one of those blinding hot days when even the birds seemed too tired to chirp. I was walking home from the convenience store when I saw a guy standing in Hargrove's yard. He looked about my age. Short hair, black t-shirt, cargo pants. Pale. Way too pale for someone standing in the sun. He waved. "You live around here?" "Yeah, just next door." He smiled like he already knew that. "Cool. I'm helping the city inventory the place before demolition." We made some small talk. He seemed friendly, smart, a little off, but nothing alarming. He told me his name was Ellis. He had this weird fascination with the house. Said it was built in the early 1900s and probably full of hidden treasures. He invited me to help him look through the basement later that week. I said yes. On Thursday afternoon, I followed him into the Hargrove House. It smelled like mildew and rot, but there was something else, something metallic underneath it. The floors creaked so loud I flinched with every step. We spent hours digging through boxes, old books, broken clocks. At one point, Ellis pulled out a huge binder full of handwritten notes. Hargrove had apparently kept meticulous logs about the neighborhood. People's names, times they left their houses, what cars they drove. There were even photos, grainy black and white shots taken from behind curtains. Some pages had names crossed out in red. "Creepy old man," I said with a forced chuckle. Ellis didn't laugh. Later, he asked if I wanted to come back the next day. He had a key to the attic he hadn't tried yet. I agreed, partly out of boredom, partly curiosity. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the crossed-out names. The next day, we went up to the attic. It was boiling hot and almost empty. Just a chair, a few old boxes, and one locked metal cabinet. Ellis said he'd bring tools to open it tomorrow. That night, I Googled Hargrove. Nothing came up. No obituary, no death record, nothing. I even checked the town's property records. The house was still listed under his name. When I asked Ellis the next day who hired him to do the inventory, he shrugged. "The city." "Which department?" He blinked. "Why are you asking?" I shrugged too, just curious. He didn't smile this time. That night I heard something outside my bedroom window. A tap, then another. I turned off my light and peeked through the blinds. Ellis was standing in my yard facing my window. I froze. He didn't move. Just stood there. I don't know for how long, but eventually he turned and walked away. I didn't sleep that night. The next day I went to the police station. I told them about the house, the stranger, the strange documents. They said they'd send someone to check it out. I felt stupid walking out of there. But that night, someone tried to open my front door, quietly, slowly. I had installed a chain lock the week before. Whoever it was didn't try too hard. They left. I didn't see Ellis for a couple days after that. Then I got a letter. No stamp, just slid under my door. It read, "People forget what they see, but not what they feel." You felt it, didn't you? No name, but I knew it was from him. I went back to the Hargrove house in daylight. The door was locked, windows boarded. It looked abandoned, as if no one had been inside for years. I called the city. They said no one had been authorized to enter the house. No inventory, no demolition. Nothing. I told them about Ellis. They had no record of anyone by that name. I started losing sleep. I kept the lights on. I barely ate. A week later, I woke up to find my back door open. On my kitchen table was a photograph, a picture of me asleep in my bed, taken from inside my room. I threw up. I moved in with my cousin the next day. 2 months later, I drove by the Hargrove house. It had been leveled. Nothing but dirt and a couple old trees remained. But there, leaning against one of the trees, was a man in a black t-shirt and cargo pants. He waved. I didn't stop. I never went back. And even now, All these summers later, I still wonder who Ellis was, or what he was. But I know this, he never needed that cabinet open. I was the cabinet. He was looking inside me the whole time, and I'm terrified he liked what he saw.
My name's Elias. I just turned 21 this fall. And while most people my age look forward to wild nights or beach trips with friends, my family does things a little differently. We don't go to Cancun or rent houseboats. No. Every year, right in the dead of winter, we pack up rifles, gear, and enough whiskey to drown a bear, and we head into the woods. This year's trip took us to northern Vermont, where my uncle Lucian had found an isolated cabin for rent. Though calling it a cabin didn't do it justice. The place was massive, 3 floors, a loft, 2 fireplaces, and enough bunk rooms to sleep our entire extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even one of my grandfather's old army buddies. My family's unconventional. Half are survivalists, the other half just like shooting things. I've grown up with it. Gun oil and the smell of cold pine are more familiar to me than deodorant. We arrived on a Sunday evening. Snow was already knee-deep, the driveway barely cleared. The forest around us looked like something out of a horror movie. Tall trees with skeletal branches, everything muffled under the weight of snow. It was quiet, in that eerie, wrong kind of way, like the forest was waiting for something. The week was mostly uneventful at first. Cooking meat over fire, chopping wood, arguing over old politics. On the 3rd day, as tradition dictates, we played the hunt. It's a game. Technically. Everyone over 18 gets a high-grade laser tag set. Custom built by Lucian himself, complete with IR scopes and full chest sensors. The rules are simple. 1 shot disables your opponent. Last person standing by midnight wins the pot. And bragging rights. This year it was over $600. We started around 8 p.m., everyone layered up. It was around minus 12 degrees Celsius, but nobody cared. Adrenaline kept us warm. Lucian handed out the gear and gave the usual speech. No real weapons, no interference, no whining. Then, without another word, he sprinted into the forest like a lunatic. Everyone else followed. It was my 3rd year playing, so I had a strategy. Instead of charging uphill with the rest, I flanked left, ducking behind snow-laden fir trees, making my way toward a small ridge I'd scouted earlier. It offered a good view of the western woods. From there, I could spot movement and plan my path. For the first hour, everything was quiet. Occasionally, I'd spot a distant sensor blink or hear muffled laughter, but I stayed hidden. Around 9:30, I made my first move. I looped downhill, trailing fresh footprints in the snow, keeping low. That's when I saw someone, my cousin James, crouched near a fallen log. I snuck around, flanked him from the blind side, and nailed him clean in the shoulder. His sensor flashed red.
"Damn it, Elias!" he called out, slapping the log.
I just grinned and waved. He stomped off toward the house. 1 down, I pressed deeper into the woods, but the deeper I went, the stranger it felt. The air changed. Less crisp, more stagnant. My boots crunched against the crusted snow. Everything around me looked identical. Trees, snow, footprints, but not just mine. That's when I noticed a second set. Not James's. They were parallel to mine, but older. Not by much. A few minutes ahead, maybe. Then they veered left, out toward a denser patch of woods. Curiosity got the better of me. I followed. 20 minutes in, I started regretting it. The snow grew deeper. The trees blocked the moonlight, making it hard to see. My laser tag gear beeped low battery. I stopped to breathe, hoping the footsteps would circle back. That's when I saw the snowman. It was small, child-sized, off the trail, facing away. And it was holding something. A black object in its stick arm. I stepped closer. It was one of the laser pistols. My aunt's. I froze. She hadn't even come out this round. Said she was sick. So how the hell?
You shouldn't be here.
The voice came from behind me. Calm. Too calm. I turned slowly. A man stood a few yards back. Not one of my relatives. He wore old camo. No sensor gear. No ID. His face was mostly obscured. Beard. Ski mask pulled low. But his eyes looked empty. I backed up. Sorry. Wrong direction.
They won't hear you out here.
He lifted something. A long object wrapped in black tape. A real gun. I ran. Branches whipped my face. My chest burned. I didn't care. I needed light, noise, anything. My GPS was glitching. My phone screen refused to unlock with gloves. Behind me, footsteps. 2 sets now. Shouting. Not words. Sounds. Like laughter and snarls mixed together. Eventually, I broke free of the thicker trees and spotted a light. Someone's flashlight. I barreled toward it, yelling. It was Lucian. He saw me, immediately raised his rifle and fired 3 times into the air. Silence. No more footsteps. No more laughter. I collapsed into the snow, panting.
Lucian knelt beside me. What the hell happened?
I told him everything. Or tried to. Between gulps of air and frozen lungs, it was messy. But he believed me. Or at least, believed enough to grab my dad and 2 cousins and start a search. They found nothing. No footprints. No man. No snowman. Only one thing remained. My aunt's laser pistol, placed neatly on the cabin's front porch the next morning. We reported it all. Cops said they'd investigate. They found tire tracks at the edge of the woods. But nothing more. We left that day. But 3 days later, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a photo of me. Taken during the game. Looking straight into the lens. On the back, scribbled in pencil. Play again next year. That should have been the end of it. I tried to forget. Threw myself into work. Told friends it was just a prank by some backwoods creeper. But some nights I'd catch myself checking locks twice. Leaving lights on. Sleeping with my old baseball bat by the bed. About a month passed before I got the second envelope. It came in the mail again. No stamp. No address. Just sitting in my mailbox one morning like it had been hand-delivered. Inside wasn't a photo this time. It was a single item. A shell casing. .308. My Uncle Lucian's caliber. Wrapped around it was a note. Missed. That same scrawled handwriting. That same eerie message. I called Lucian immediately. He went silent after I explained. Then he asked if anyone else had received anything. That night, we organized a group call with a few other cousins. Turns out James had gotten something too. A sliver of wood, freshly broken. Carved into a tiny crude figure that looked eerily like him. Corbo, the cousin I tagged in the game, said he hadn't gotten anything. But he sounded nervous. Lucian was convinced it was a stalker. Maybe someone who had watched us for years. Maybe someone who hated our kind of people. Gun freaks, as he called it. He told everyone to stay alert. Lock doors. Keep phones charged. Nothing happened for months. Then came summer. I was out late with a friend, driving through back roads when I spotted a familiar turnoff. The old Vermont highway that led toward the cabin. Something pulled at me. I told my friend we should check it out. Just drive by. He wasn't thrilled, but agreed. The road was overgrown. We reached the property eventually. It was abandoned now. The rental company had gone under. The place looked the same, just more weather-worn. Then I noticed the snowman. Except there was no snow. It was made of stones this time. White painted stones. And it stood exactly where the first had been. In its hand, a fresh stick. And impaled on the stick, a dead bird. We got the hell out. I haven't been back since. But sometimes I find things on my porch. Small things. Twigs tied in knots. shell casings. One time, a stone with my name scratched into it. Winter is coming again. And I have a feeling this year's hunt is already underway. My name's Matt, and I was a senior in college when this happened. Unlike the party-hard crowd in Greek life who spent spring break every year getting sunburned in Cabo or Cancun, I never had the luxury. Money was always tight. I worked a part-time job during the school year and full-time during summers just to make ends meet. So, spring breaks for me usually meant an empty campus and binge watching whatever show I hadn't had time for during the semester. But when senior year rolled around, I felt this strange pressure. Like if I didn't do something now, I'd never get the college spring break experience. It would slip through my fingers forever, like so many other things adulthood slowly robs from you. Mexico was still way out of budget. But one night, my girlfriend Ally found a cabin listed on Airbnb for an unusually low price. It looked incredible, remote, cozy, with a hot tub and a big open deck perfect for stargazing. It was tucked away somewhere in Lake County, California, about 2.5 hours north. We figured we could make it a double date trip and invited her best friend Leah and Leah's boyfriend Calvin. None of us had ever vacationed together before, so this felt exciting and spontaneous in the best way. We didn't know it then, but that weekend would scar each of us for a long time. We left on a Friday afternoon in Calvin's Mini Cooper. Why he owned a Mini Cooper at 6'3" inches I'll never understand. The girls crammed into the back while I took shotgun. Calvin was proud of his car, unreasonably so, and got defensive whenever anyone made a joke about the lack of space. Still, the drive was decent. We blasted music, ate gas station snacks, and tried to forget about midterms. By the time we pulled into the cabin's long gravel driveway, the sun had already dipped beneath the horizon. The cabin looked even more secluded than the listing let on. The forest loomed around the house like a curtain, tall and thick, swallowing most of the moonlight. The only other visible house was a good 200 yards away, and even that was partially hidden behind a ridge. Inside, the place was stunning. Exposed beams, an antique record player, a rustic fireplace already stacked with wood. But there was something else. Something we all noticed, but didn't say aloud. The silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive. Not a single bird call or rustle of wind. Just stillness. That first night we played board games, sipped wine, and cracked jokes in front of the fireplace. Calvin was unusually quiet. He kept glancing at the window and checking his phone like he was waiting for something. Ally noticed it too and nudged me about it later, but we brushed it off. Maybe he was just stressed from the drive or something at home. Saturday was more lively. We explored a bit, played music, and cooked together. That night, we finally got Calvin to agree to hop in the hot tub with us. It was in its own screened-in room, attached to the back of the cabin. Steam rose into the air while we played drinking games and let our guard down. It finally felt like the spring break I'd imagined. Until the light. It was like a camera flash, but 10 times brighter, white, blinding, and sudden. It lit up the entire spa room, casting sharp shadows and silencing all of us. The music cut mid-song as I scrambled out of the tub and turned toward the woods. Nothing. But then came the sounds. Clicking, like metal on wood. Then again, but from another direction. And then, a low, almost human whistle. More clicks, more whistles. They surrounded us, too numerous and too erratic to pinpoint. I shouted for everyone to get inside. We slammed the door and locked it, breathing heavy, wet towels still wrapped around us. Calvin was pale. Leah was shaking. Ally grabbed her phone but had no signal. None of us did. We sat in the living room waiting. Listening. My mind spun with explanations. Maybe some redneck prank, maybe a drone, maybe some weird forest animal behavior. I wanted to believe that. I needed to. Then the knocking started. Heavy, deliberate pounding on the front door. Not frantic. Rhythmic. Purposeful. I grabbed the biggest knife from the kitchen and stood near the entryway. Calvin dialed 911. He whispered our location as best he could and was told the police were on their way. But how long would that take out here? I screamed that I had a gun, hoping to scare them off. It worked. The knocking stopped. We sat in tense silence for 5 full minutes. Then a crash. The living room window shattered inward. A rock the size of a softball landed on the floor with a heavy thud. The girls screamed. Calvin bolted upstairs with them while I stood frozen. I walked toward the broken glass and saw something taped to the rock. A piece of yellowed paper. 4 words scribbled in black ink. You shouldn't be here. I stared at it, heart pounding, until red and blue lights flooded the room. The police had arrived. They searched the woods and the property but found nothing. No footprints. No signs of intruders. Just shattered glass and one very shaken group of college students. We packed up that night and drove back to campus, hearts still racing. The Airbnb host issued a refund but refused to speak further, brushing the whole thing off with a vague message about local kids messing around. But I don't believe that. A week later, Ally got an unmarked envelope in her dorm mailbox. No return address. Inside was a photo of us, in the hot tub. Taken from the woods. In the bottom corner, written in the same handwriting as before, "See you next break."